everyone! Welcome to part 2 of the video series in terms of some tools and tricks that you can use to helping you in college. And I'm sure some of this stuff might even apply to high school as well, depending upon what it is. But yeah, so if you haven't seen part 1, you can go check it out right here. And there'll also be a link in the description as well for part 1. And yeah, let's just get to it. So the first thing that I want to mention is getting to class early. For me personally, when it came to college, transitioning to different buildings, to different classes was kind of difficult at times, depending upon how my energy levels were, how good I was feeling that day, what was happening in my life. Those transitions were easier on some days and harder on others. So what I'd like to do is try to get to class 15 minutes early. And what that did is, by getting there and kind of getting situated, most of the kids aren't really there yet, so for the most part it's quiet, because usually kids like to come in a few minutes beforehand. I could kind of get everything set up on my desk how I wanted to. I could have my notebook out, I could have my binder out, whatever it is, the textbook, whatever it is I needed for that class. And I could just kind of get my mind into that moment of, okay, get ready. You know what I mean? At least for me, that's how it was really beneficial too. It was like, yeah, just getting ready and trying to transition my focus from what I was doing previously. So if I was at lunch, it was like, okay, you're no longer eating lunch. You no longer have to focus on that. Let's start transitioning and let's start getting our mind ready for class. Let's start getting ready for our teacher to come through. Let's start getting ready. And I'd start going over and thinking about what happened last class, maybe looking over some notes that happened last class. So I can kind of like remember briefly. It's like, okay, yeah, I remember talking about that. I remember that. And then from there, it'll kind of start jogging my memory of like, oh, I think she said this class, we're going to talk about this. So I could kind of start getting focused and ready for what was about to happen. That was really beneficial to me. I highly recommend it to anyone else out there. Get to class about 15 minutes early. Yeah, it was really helpful to me. I tried to do that any chance I get. Obviously, some days you're going to be running late or you're going to be feeling good to the point where you're like, nah, I don't need to go 15 minutes late. I'm good if I walk in 5 minutes before. It depended upon the class period, how I was feeling, all of that. But yeah. So the second thing that helped me was for certain classes, obviously depending upon the time of how long the class is, there were certain classes that I just recorded the audio of. So for me, I have APD, audio processing disorder. Sometimes what people say, my brain interprets differently and I hear things quite differently. So because of that, sometimes my notes will have different things in it than what was said, or sometimes I can't remember what the teacher was saying, so I have like half-written notes. So for certain classes, not all of them, for certain classes, I would just record the audio in. And then that way, when it came to reviewing for a test, I could just listen back to the audio from a few classes and kind of get an understanding as to what's going to happen on the test. Or if I forgot something and I forgot to write it down, or I didn't have time to write it down, I knew I had it in an audio format on my phone. And that was really, really helpful as well. So I highly recommend that. It helps for studying for tests. It helps not make it as stressful sometimes. Like, some teachers would just talk really fast. And like, for me, it was like sometimes impossible to write down. Or some of the teachers wouldn't put their slides up on, like, for us we used Canvas, so some of the teachers wouldn't put them up on Canvas, or for others it's Blackboard. So because of that, I would really have to make sure that what I'm taking notes on is very important, and it just kind of helped relieve that stress knowing I had that backup information somewhere else. So the next thing I have is keeping a binder full of reference materials. I started doing this about halfway through college, and I wish I did it from the beginning. I have actually my binder here that's filled with a whole bunch of stuff. So I did in college audio engineering, so I have a whole bunch of papers in here that were given out that I knew were going to be important later on, like mixing workflows, post workflow, what EQ is and like how to use it, what compression is and how to use it, just a whole bunch of different, like this sheet right here, the 3 ways to use a compressor. I just have a whole bunch of stuff on here that I've kept that I could use as later material. I even have here final exams. 6 tips and tricks for finals week. Like, I don't know, it was just a paper that was like slipped under my door and I just kept it and put it in here. So I would highly recommend you doing something like this for college, where if you get any important materials or something you feel like this might be a little bit more important to hold on to than just regular homework assignments, put it in a binder and just collect it over time. You'd be surprised at how much useful information they just like gave you. I don't know. That sounds stupid, probably. But I was just kind of shocked. Like, I was like, holy cow, like you just gave me a whole step-by-step guide on how to mix something. Like, that's saying that you're like, I'm gonna keep that. So yeah, I just did that over the years, and when I was having trouble with certain things, I would kind of create my own sheet on it and put it in here. So one example for that is I struggled a little bit with sampling and quantization. I can't even say it. How am I supposed to? I can't even say it. Quantization. What that is, and I was kind of having trouble with it, so I kind of created my own cheat sheet study where I just typed out my version of what it is after looking at different definitions. I kind of put it into my own words what it is, and then I kind of did a little graph. And then on here, in the very beginning stages of audio, you're learning about all different kinds of microphones, and that was very overwhelming to me at first. A lot of kids were getting it pretty easily, and I was getting really confused over it. So what I did is I ended up creating a little cheat sheet, and I put that in my reference material of all the different kinds of microphones, as well as different examples of some more of the well-known ones that fit into those categories. So I could just kind of look at that really quick and kind of get an idea of like, okay, that's what this mic does. Okay, that mic's part of this group. Okay, now that makes sense as to why that's being used here. But you could do your own for a whole bunch of different majors, I'm sure. I'm sure it crosses over very easily. So that is something that I also highly recommend. I am so thankful I did that, because now that I'm out of college and I don't have that information anymore, like given to me all the time, I just kind of printed it off, and now I get to have it forever on top of all my textbooks as well. So highly recommend that. One goal I always had in college is try to complete all your homework assignments minimum a day before. And I get it, like things happen. I am no exception to that rule. There were days and weeks at a time where I was doing homework assignments the day of or right before class. Like, I get it, life happens. You can't be perfect and pristine, but definitely try to get homework assignments done early. And the reason is not only because it's peace of mind, you know that it's done, but just in case you have a question on the assignment or you're not understanding it, you have enough time to talk to the teacher or to talk to a student in class. And the teacher will be way more willing to help you if you if you ask them a few days before the assignment's due versus right before class. Just experience and words of advice. But yeah, highly recommend that. It's an easy thing to do. It's a simple little change to put into your routine that'll really help you. And just give you a little bit peace of mind. The next thing I recommend for college is doing counseling sessions. For the majority of colleges, counseling sessions are free if you are a student. Might vary depending upon if you're part-time or full-time, but they're free. And why wouldn't you take advantage of that? I mean, I am no exception to that. College is just sometimes overwhelming. And no matter how many tips and tricks and all of that you put into it, sometimes there's just moments where it's really overwhelming, whether it's college life, family life, whatever. So definitely look to see if your college has some sort of counseling available to students for free. And you could just go in weekly and help with actual licensed, trained therapists that are there to help you. Our college was really good about that, and I had nothing but positive experiences there in terms of therapy. I know there are some colleges where their therapy and counseling sessions are kind of a little bit lackluster. So your college might have one, it might not be that good, or your college might not even have it at all. But definitely go out and at least see if it's possible and kind of get an idea as to see if it's worthwhile for you or not. So I definitely recommend that. Next thing I recommend is visual schedules. I am a very visual person. So what I have done off and on over time, it's not something that's stayed consistent because, like I've kind of been saying a lot, my energy levels and how good I'm feeling and all of that differ and vary. And so sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But if you have like a visual schedule to go with your morning routine or night routine, that might help you kind of get things done easier. Make it so you don't forget things in the morning or night, or at least just make it more of a calming kind of flow of an experience, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, that might help some of you out there. Just creating a visual schedule. So you don't have to read it. It's all in pictures. You just see the picture, you know you have to do it. You see a picture of a backpack, you know you have to make your backpack. You know, see a picture of food, you know you have to eat. See a picture of, I don't know, anything like that that you kind of do in the morning. That might help you make it so you don't forget anything. Next thing I recommend that I started doing halfway through my college experience is packing my backpack the night before. Again, this wasn't something that I did every single night because there were nights that I did forget, or were nights where I was just too tired, and by the time I remembered it was like, oh, I'll just do it in the morning. But when I did do it, it was so helpful. Just doing little things like that, like one less thing I have to worry about in the morning, you know? And it just made things a lot more smoother in the morning. And it made it so I was thinking about all of that the night before. So I know that when I go to class today, everything is in there the way it should be. Because sometimes when I didn't do it and I thought I was going to be fine in the morning, I would either forget to do it, or I thought I had done it correctly and I show up to class and I realized that the notebook that I was supposed to have in there is not actually in there. And it can kind of throw your whole day off, throw your morning off, and it's just easier to just do it the night before. Yeah. And the very last thing that I recommend is emailing and talking to your professors. I mean, I'm sure this is going to be in every tips and trick video. Just talk to them. Professors are more understanding than you think they are. I feel like for me, my high school teachers were much harder to talk to than my college professors. That's just my personal experience. I could be wrong. But college professors, honestly, just most professors really, they're just there because they really enjoy the subject. They really enjoy teaching it. They really just have an interest in what they're talking about, which is, I feel like, how most teachers become professors, or how most people become college professors. And so because they genuinely enjoy that stuff, they usually don't have a problem like explaining things to students or coming in for extra help or anything like that, because they just love talking about that kind of stuff. I had both in college positive and negative experiences doing this. I learned that some teachers, you kind of get an understanding and you learn very quickly what teachers are there for the paycheck and what teachers are actually there to help you. And If you can find some sort of support system, either through the teacher or through other students in your class, that will be very beneficial to you. So when you don't understand something, if the teacher's not always there, because sometimes teachers either just don't care, or sometimes teachers have a lot of things going on in their lives where they're teaching at multiple places, or they have multiple jobs that like their office hours are so flexible and changing all the time that they really don't have the time to sit there with students. So yeah, so kind of creating a bit of a support system. Some teachers have no problem whatsoever and are more than willing to help you, more than willing to go beyond office hours to support you, willing to extend deadlines on assignments for you. And again, this all works by making sure you're kind of putting in the effort. So as long as they can see that you are genuinely trying and putting in the effort, for the most part, teachers are fine with it. The professors don't mind at all. But again, there are some professors where, at least there's one experience in my mind that I remember in college where I did try to get help and I did try to explain to the professor what was going on, and it was getting me nowhere, and it was just causing more issues than it was actually helping. So you'll learn pretty early on who to talk to and who not to talk to. But yeah, that's always a fantastic option as well, is just email them and let them know. Professors get it. Obviously some won't, but for the most part, they are very understanding about it. And they're fine if, you know, you happen to put in something late or whatever, if you just talk to them and explain what's going on with your situation. So that is all of my tips and tricks in college. If anyone has any other tips and tricks, write them in the comments for this video, and hopefully whoever's reading them, that might help them as well. And I think that is it. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.